It may not have been the sexiest day of footy, but between Geelong's overwhelming performance, Freo finally win on the road, what the Bulldogs did to the Bombers, and a cracker at the MCG, I still think there's plenty of things to talk about in this Saturday session. So let's do it. So let's start with the most recent game, and for a very interesting reason. I am recording this, and the game's not over. It's currently three-quarter time, and yet I'm still talking about it now because what the heck is going to change in 40 minutes' time, to be honest. 22 minutes into this quarter, or the first quarter, I should say, the game was done, it was over, and the embarrassing part for the Bombers, even though their third quarter was better, is that the more party time and less structured game that the Bulldogs played, the worse it got. Once it actually got to a point where the Dogs knew the game was over and it was just time to put some icing on top of this very beautiful cake that they'd put together, the Bombers had nothing to go with them. Their pressure was down, their ball use was gross. Outside of Archie Roberts, they looked like they had no transition play in them at all, which was a real shame. It was just a genuine shit show from start to finish. And I know that there is going to be over-analysis of the Bombers. I know them winning 5 of the last 6, but who did they beat? And all of these kinds of things are going to come out against the Bombers. But in all honesty, I think a lot of the credit here has got to go to the Bulldogs. And to be honest, if only someone had have made a video highlighting how the Bulldogs are playing like a contender. If only someone did that. And if only people watched it. But anyway, everything I said in that video is still true now. A couple of add-ons that are so pertinent to this game. Tom Liberatore might be the most underrated player in the competition. He is definitely up there. I spoke about in that Bulldogs video, and I'll say it here now. The underrated part of his game is his leadership. The Bont did Bont things. Bailey Dale found the footy at will. He had no opponent for the majority of the evening, and when the game got out of hand, there was no point sitting someone on him in the slightest. But the two guys that I really want to give a lot of credit to, one being James O'Donnell. I thought the body work that he was able to do when the game was on the line on Peter Wright was outstanding for the majority of this one. Rory Lobb did a fantastic job as well. But the other guy that I want to give credit to is Riley West. If we were serious about proper All-Australian selection, the 4 small forwards, yes, high half forwards and forward pockets, would be Jack Higgins, Paul Curtis, Ben Long, and there's an argument to be made for Riley West because he is the number 1 player in the competition for ground ball gets inside the forward 50. There is no one better than him at it. He is a more than solid set shot for goal. Now, of course, they're not going to do this. They're going to put 2 midfielders on the wing, and they're going to put a midfield half-forward-ish kind of player or a midfielder that just kicks goals on the half-forward flank. I kind of get the logic for the half-forward, but if we're going to put guys in their proper spots, shouldn't we be doing that? But anyway, the Dogs, massive win. Essendon, embarrassing. Let's move on, shall we? And we can move on to a flogging, another one. The Cats and the Power. This game could almost be summed up in quite a similar way, to be honest, which is Bailey Smith is a genuine star, and anyone who thought he wasn't going to have an impact or as big an impact in a Geelong jumper was out of their mind. Someone very clever did a video on Bailey Smith's last 26 games before he did his knee, because apparently the only time Bailey Smith had ever played good football was the 21 final series, which is just nonsense. Knew this was coming. So, pat on the back for that gentleman there. And Jeremy Cameron is a freak. Kicked 7 goals, 1. Now, admittedly, Lachie Jones going down with that hamstring injury. Of course, he was not the only one, with Jason Horne-Francis going down as well. Josh Sin did a hammy as well, very early into that game, actually. So, Lachie Jones was actually playing Jeremy Cameron very well. I was very impressed with what he was able to do. Unfortunate that he wasn't able to be allowed to complete that job. Fingers crossed all 3 of those boys are A-OK as best or as quickly as possible. Brad Close, Brian Myers, these guys are always going to be good. Pretty much everyone from the Cats had a really good day. Ollie Dempsey and Steele Sidebottom might just be the All-Australian wingman and actually should be named again as wingman. I feel like my midweek video is just forming itself at this point. And then for Port, yep, Injuries matter. They do. They absolutely do. I don't know whether they're worth 12.5 goals. I really don't. But right now, Port Adelaide have the first, second, and I think fourth highest loss in terms of margin. More than Richmond and more than West Coast. In terms of the top two, of course, the two 90-point losses to the Bulldogs and to Collingwood. So that's pretty damning, considering that comparing Richmond, West Coast, North Melbourne, Melbourne if you want to, that's pretty alarming for Ken Hinkley's last year. And you guys know how I feel about Port Adelaide in their season, so I don't need to keep going with it. Effectively, not great a performance here, but massive credit to the Cats. And I'll tell you, in a world where halfbacks reign supreme and there are always going to be one or two underrated ones, my God, Lawson Humphries is good. Fun fact for you, Lawson Humphries was the pick that Geelong haggled Port Adelaide over in the Asava Radigalia deal. They're bloody good over there in Geelong. They really are. So a massive win for them and a congratulations to them as well. And then let's go to the game I'm probably most excited to talk about. GWS versus Freo. Effectively, let's get this straight. Freo lost the uncontested possession and lost the marking stats. Well, given the way that they want to play their football, they got smacked, didn't they? No, they didn't. They won by 34 points because they actually wanted to move the ball. This was really one of those wins where I'm kind of like, yes, this is why I believed in Freo. This is making me feel good as a Freo truther and a Freo believer. And then there's that other voice that just kind of sneaks away here, plops itself on your shoulder, and just screams into your ear, where has that been? Now, fingers crossed that a level of consistency is going to kick in here. They look like such a better side with Luke Jackson as the solo ruck. Shea Bolton is producing some unbelievable form, and Jordan Clark off halfback looked really good. Sarong, one of his better games for the year. Bedford went to Brayshaw for quite a bit of this game, although I didn't see a whole lot of the second half, if I'm being honest. But this was awesome by the Dockers and what they needed to do. Good to see Jai Miss get some form, kicked a couple in this game also. But what was more impressive in that regard for me with the Dockers is that when the ball hit the ground, they pressurised. Michael Frederick kicked 3. They laid over a dozen, or I think a dozen tackles inside 50 in this game. I mean, I don't want to say it's not hard, because no shit, it's hard, right? There's a reason why I'm sitting in my office and they actually play the game. But I can totally understand the people that are looking at this like, do it consistently. I really do. And I'm like that as well. But also, you got to give credit where it's due. That was a fantastic win and they played terrific footy. The Giants, I put them on fraud watch. They've now lost to Sydney and lost to Freo. So that's aging well, I'd like to think. Now, granted, Sydney are 2-1 since I put them in that video as well. So we'll see how that goes. I'm still not feeling 100% about the Swans because the bottom end is not that great, but they've got injuries. I understand all that. But as a Freo believer and someone who has got some stock in Freo, metaphorically, loved what I saw in every which way, and fingers crossed it continues. The Giants' pressure was awful in this game, and they need to recover quickly because it looks like 6 or 7 of the top 8 teams are in really good shape, and they're the vulnerable ones. The Bombers' loss helps them, obviously, but I think whoever finishes 8th is going to get massacred by whoever finishes 5th. Whoever it is. The gap between, I think, the 5th and 9th best team in the competition is massive and growing. But if it's Freo who are playing consistent footy, I probably change my mind on that. So probably Freo's win of the year, to be honest. In fact, it definitely is, given the game plan and the location came together beautifully. Massive credit to them. Last but not least, let's go to the game that I watched the most of on Saturday, Collingwood and the Crows. The Crom, you've got to love the Crom. I do, I'm big fans. I put them in my top 4 last year. I didn't have them I went New Zealand then. I didn't have them in my 8 this year. So I'm pretty sure that spite is the reason that Adelaide are a good side this year. Now, granted, they did lose this game, and I'll talk about Collingwood in a minute, but in all honesty, I feel like conditions robbed us of a way better game. Jordan Dawson started this game like a house on fire. Jake Saligo finished it really strongly. I think he was on half a dozen disposals halfway through that second quarter. Came alive, kicked a couple of goals. Did Jake the Snake, which we love in every which way, let me tell you, down at Daz HQ. My goodness gracious me. But the Pies, this was such a professional win. Jeremy Howe is playing some of the best and most consistent footy of his career, not only the intercept marking, but his back shoulder ability as well has been tremendous. Absolutely tremendous as well. And forward of the footy, I love what they're doing, whether it is Maya Check, whether it is Membry flying for the footy. Elliott and Hill are just looking so dangerous. It was good to see Bo McCreary get some CBAs. Him around the ball early just opens him up to a high half forward role or a centre forward kind of role, depending on what's kind of happening with his mojo going in. I thought that was really good. More games into Ed Allen is a plus. He has got some traits that have got 150, 200 game player about him. Of course, he's not the finished product yet, but the Pies would be very happy with what they're seeing. I like what Lockie Sullivan is doing. The Dacos brothers did what the Dacos brothers do, and Darcy Cameron continued his almighty form. But I'll reiterate, I think conditions cost us a really good contest here, which is a little bit of a shame, but a kick and a half. Poor Isaac Rankin's third quarter was the stuff of nightmares, to be genuinely honest. Not necessarily the difference in the game, because more things have to happen outside of that 10-15 minutes, but it wasn't Isaac at his best in that third quarter, unfortunately. Rory Laird was pretty solid. Riley O'Brien was okay-ish, but round the ground he looked more athletic than Mason Cox, less athletic than Darcy Cameron. So that's to be expected, but not great by the future medical doctor, let me tell you. But overall, the Pies were very good. Who was the most impressive winner on the day? I think we've got to give it to the Bulldogs, even though I don't know what the final score is. The systematic takedown of the Dons was super impressive, but I would put Freo as second, Geelong third, even though they also had a massive win on the road. Maybe expectation has me putting Freo second. You can argue with that if you want. I'm in no way putting down Geelong. They were fantastic. And look, the Pies being fourth probably seems harsh as well, considering that they put away a team in the top 6 in a pretty good game of footy for the conditions. I'm not a massive wet weather footy fan, to be honest. I know not a lot of people agree with that, but it's not that great to watch, guys, at the best of times, especially not in a competition where it's not the good teams are the best of all time. It's the fact that 5th to 12th are trying to be as good as possible. It just brings the product down. So that's why I like Marvel, I think. I don't know, but maybe not today because of the smacking. But that's where I stand, guys, as a quick rundown of everything that's happened here on Saturday. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. The cohort, it's growing. We're nearly at 5,500. Need your help getting to 6,000, which is a number that is just incredible, to be perfectly honest, and I appreciate every single one of you. I will be back for Sunday. Hopefully, we get a couple of better games. Richmond North is intriguing, and can West Coast upset the Saints? We shall see. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. See you tomorrow.